I still remember the first time I saw him move under the lights. They called him the monster, but to me, he looked more like calm lightning, quiet before the strike. His name was Naoya Inoue, and wherever he went, the air carried a tension that belonged only to champions. I had watched fighters promise to break him, watched them study film, build game plans, and come to the ring full of hope. Yet every time, I saw that same look in their eyes once the bell rang, the moment they realized that the stories were true. From the start, Inoue didn't just fight. He performed an art form born of precision and purpose. People spoke of his power, but the real secret was rhythm. Each punch had a pulse, a beat, and a melody that only he could hear. And when the music began, there was no escape. The story begins in Japan, under the bright glow of Tokyo's arenas, where Inoue built his legend brick by brick. Critics outside his homeland whispered that he was untested, that the cheers of home had carried him, that he hadn't faced real pressure. They said his rise was a story of convenience, not conquest. But every great fighter needs doubters. They are the sparks that light the furnace. When Paul Butler entered the picture, he brought with him the calm pride of a champion who had climbed a long road. Butler believed the monster could be outlasted. He thought endurance could tame chaos. I remember the confidence in his words. Let's see what he's like after a few rounds. He wanted to test the rumor of exhaustion, to see whether the storm had limits. That night, I saw Inoue enter the ring with a look that could freeze time. He didn't blink. The crowd seemed to vanish as he began his craft. Every step, every faint tilt of the shoulder, and every jab carried a purpose too sharp for the untrained eye to notice. Butler tried to measure him, but the distance was already gone. Inoue owned it. The first few rounds were a masterclass in control, a study in dominance where the aggressor hardly needed to raise his voice. Butler soon realized that every small movement had a consequence. When he lifted his guard, the body opened. When he circled away, the corner appeared too soon. Inoue painted the ring with invisible lines that only he could see, guiding his opponent into his rhythm. As the rounds passed, Butler stopped chasing victory and started seeking survival. By the time the end came, the monster had written another perfect chapter, patient, deliberate, and merciless only in his precision. When it was over, Butler spoke of presence, of a pressure that filled the ring before the first punch. That's the aura the great ones carry. You feel them before they touch you. And with that victory, Inoue became the undisputed bantamweight champion of the world, holder of all 4 major belts, a status that few in history ever claim. But true greatness is restless. The monster was not satisfied. He wanted more, not in trophies, but in challenges. So he climbed to a new division, super bantamweight, a realm filled with names that had ruled the scene for years. Many wondered if his power would follow him or if the move would expose his limits. Among the skeptics was Stephen Fulton, a sharp, confident champion from America. Fulton had skills, patience, and an unshakable belief that boxing IQ could neutralize brute force. Power doesn't win fights alone, he said. I'm smart, that's how I got here. When they met, the arena felt like the center of the universe. Inoue's walkout that night was pure theater, calm eyes beneath the lights, a storm wrapped in elegance. Fulton looked composed, but I could sense his curiosity. He wanted to see what all the noise was about. What unfolded was one of the cleanest exhibitions of calculated aggression I've ever witnessed. Inoue dissected every angle, every rhythm, until Fulton's counters had no target left. It wasn't rage that fueled him, it was mastery. And when the final blow landed, Fulton's crown was gone, and the monster's legend had crossed another border. Still, the hunger continued. September 2024 brought the name TJ Doheny, the Irish southpaw with dynamite in both hands. Doheny had a reputation: tough, fearless, a puncher's puncher. He arrived in Tokyo with a swagger, undefeated in that city, and proud of his record. The fans admired his courage. He had chosen to face the storm in its birthplace. That night, From the moment Inoue walked down the aisle, the building trembled. I swear, even the lights seemed to dim in respect. Doheny tried to steal the moment with showmanship, lowering his hands, daring the monster to strike first. But pride is a dangerous mask to wear. The first exchanges were tense, two fighters reading each other's souls. Doheny found moments of success, landing sharp lefts that tested Inoue's reflexes. But I could see the Japanese star adapting, shifting gears, and learning his opponent in real time. By the middle rounds, the rhythm had changed. The monster began to press, not wildly, but with surgical patience. Each shot told a story. Each feint set a trap. When Doheny tried to answer, the replies came faster, heavier, and cleaner. Inoue's timing became a language of its own, and the crowd spoke it fluently. You could feel the arena swell with every connection, every precise combination. Doheny, ever brave, refused to back down. But courage alone can't rewrite destiny. In the 7th round, a sequence of body attacks sealed the night. The referee stepped in, and Doheny's corner could only watch as the monster added another chapter to his myth. Doheny had entered as a lion and left with the respect of a crowd that knew he had faced something rare. After that, Inoue's expression told a different story. It wasn't joy, but contemplation. He had achieved victory again, but greatness has a strange loneliness. When you win too completely, even triumph starts to feel routine. Still, he pressed forward, always chasing the next summit. Before the world knew him as the global sensation he is today, Inoue had crossed paths with another man who underestimated him. Antonio Nieves, the proud American who thought the monster was a creation of hype. Nieves had seen only highlights, fights in Japan, smaller weight classes, and opponents he believed were tailor-made. He came to the ring in America confident that the myth would end under his watch. I can still recall the tension of that night. The American crowd, eager for their hometown fighter, greeted Inoue with curiosity more than fear. But when the bell rang, curiosity turned into awe. Inoue's punches landed like statements, not wild, not reckless, but deliberate messages of intent. The first round was enough to silence the whispers. By the second, the audience began to understand what Japan had known for years. Nieves fought bravely. He tried to answer with combinations, to meet fire with fire. But Inoue controlled every distance, every exchange. The left hook to the body, that signature of his craft, began to find its mark, each one delivered with mechanical precision. You could see Nieves adjusting, tightening his guard, but the shots still found a way through. Midway through the fight, the monster shifted again, showing that his power wasn't just in his hands but in his timing. He didn't chase his opponent. He guided him into the storm. After 5 relentless rounds, Nieves' corner made the merciful decision to stop it. It wasn't defeat as much as preservation, the recognition that sometimes courage must yield to wisdom. That night in America was important. It wasn't just a win, it was an introduction. The world had seen the monster on television before, but now they had witnessed him in person, and he had lived up to the legend. From that moment on, the questions about home advantage and Japanese hype began to fade. What remained was universal respect. As I watched his career unfold, I realized that Inoue's brilliance wasn't built only on power or speed. It came from discipline, the kind of discipline that lives in silence, in the lonely hours of training when nobody is watching. He's the kind of fighter who studies every mistake as if it were sacred scripture. His footwork, his balance, his patience, all reflections of a man obsessed with perfection. Outside the ring, he's calm, almost soft-spoken. You wouldn't think the quiet man you see bowing respectfully after every match could transform into that relentless force inside the ropes. That duality is what makes him fascinating. He's not just a destroyer, he's an artist. Each performance feels choreographed not for brutality but for beauty, the elegance of precision under pressure. Over time, even his rivals began to respect the inevitability of what they were facing. They studied his tapes, they brought in sparring partners, and they promised new strategies. But when the lights dimmed and the bell echoed, the story always ended the same way. The monster walked forward, calm and unstoppable, a symbol of discipline triumphing over doubt. Every champion carries a signature moment, a single sequence that defines them. For some, it's a miraculous comeback. For others, a perfect knockout. For Inoue, it's not a single punch, but an atmosphere. You feel it the moment he takes center ring, the quiet before the symphony. The way he lowers his guard slightly, daring the opponent to make the first move, then answering with a combination that feels rehearsed by fate itself. His fights are not random collisions. They are compositions. Every note, every beat, and every rhythm contributes to the crescendo. And yet, even as he dominates, Inoue's story feels unfinished. Greatness is a mountain that keeps growing. After unifying divisions and conquering champions, he continues to climb. The next opponent, whoever he may be, will not just face a man. He will face the idea of perfection in motion. Because the monster, for all his fame, still fights like someone chasing something unseen. Maybe it's history. Maybe it's legacy. Maybe it's the quiet voice that whispers, "You can still be better." I've seen fighters crumble under pressure, men whose talent was real but whose belief wavered when confronted with the impossible. Inoue is different. His belief isn't loud, it's steady, a current beneath the surface. You can see it in his eyes before each round begins, a calm that borders on frightening. It's not arrogance. It's certainty. The certainty of a man who has already visualized every moment before it happens. Whenever I think of his journey, from his early days in Yokohama to dominating the bantamweights to becoming a multi-division world champion, I see the pattern of all the greats. The humility of preparation, the fury of execution, the silence of victory. Every step along the way, he has carried himself with respect for the craft and reverence for the sport. He doesn't talk to entertain. He talks to promise. And then he delivers. To watch Naoya Inoue fight is to witness the rare alignment of talent and purpose. There's a reason they call him the monster, not because he's ruthless, but because he's inevitable. He represents the kind of excellence that frightens even the confident, not through intimidation, but through precision. Every opponent who enters the ring with him steps into a lesson about limits, both physical and mental. As the years go by, I know people will argue about where he ranks among the greatest to ever do it. Some will mention the legends of the past, the icons who ruled in heavier divisions. But I believe greatness isn't measured in pounds or eras, it's measured in mastery. And mastery is what Naoya Inoue embodies more than any fighter I've ever seen. He's proof that skill, when refined to its purest form, becomes something beyond comprehension. Watching him is like witnessing inevitability dressed as elegance. And in that sense, every fight he's in isn't just a contest. It's a reminder of what human discipline can achieve when paired with unshakable will. They call him the monster, but maybe that word doesn't capture the truth. Monsters are born. Inoue was built, through patience, through pain, through relentless repetition. He's not a creature of myth. He's a craftsman of violence turned into art. And as long as he keeps walking toward new mountains, new divisions, and new names who dare to challenge him, the story will continue to grow. Because somewhere, out there, another fighter is convincing himself that he's the one, the man who can break the legend, who can stop the rhythm. But I've seen what happens when the bell rings. The lights dim, the crowd roars, and for a moment the world holds its breath. Then the music begins again, that familiar tempo, that balance of beauty and danger. And just like that, the monster dances once more.